Hello guys, and welcome again to another replay analysis game where we're looking at Gold League Perdos versus Zerg. And John, when you're listening to this specifically, you actually never told me what race you were, so I'm assuming you're the Perdos player because I did speed through this replay a little bit really fast, and the Zerg definitely looks like he's not playing ViBE styles, but you are, as is what John, or our boy John, is going for. But I'm gonna assume this means John is impressive. Hopefully I'm right. Because, John, if you're the Zerg player in this, what the fuck are you doing, man? That's not even ViBE at all. Okay, anyways. Perdos. This looks like ViBE. We'll talk about it. Let's break it down. Oh shit, I'm going to go too fast. Okay, so your probe, good. First probe, well timed. Make sure you make another probe right now. Make sure you make that second probe right now. Let's see it. Ooh. Okay, now seconds start adding up. How many seconds are you going to miss on this Nexus? Like a millisecond. Don't let that happen. You got to make sure you time that shit. You don't want this Nexus being idle at all. Okay? I'll allow it, though, because it was very minor. It was not that bad. But now you got to be careful about this, though. Try not to queue up two probes right off the bat. So you actually didn't queue up a probe at all when you should have queued up a first probe. You should queue up a probe when it gets we're talking like sub 20 supply. Okay, you should maybe queue up a probe or like 2/3 of the way through, or like towards the end, but before it finishes if you can. The reason why is because now you're waiting on a pylon, and that's not good. This problem goes away once you get like your natural thrown down and you get a little bit of money to work with. But like you didn't queue up a probe when you should have the first time, because you got to think about it like this. This is there's no other way to think about it other than logically this is how it works. Your first probe that spawns should rally to the ramp over here, or to the choke point at your natural, because you're going to build there so you can expand. That's correct. But you cannot build a pylon within like 1 second of your probe popping out of the Nexus, because you're not building the pylon like right there. You're building the pylon like over here. So you should have a probe queued up with the first probe so you don't miss even a millisecond. It would be totally fine if you spent your first 100 minerals into two probes, because you can't build the pylon right away anyways, and you got to make the probe either way. But by the time the probe gets over here, you want to be building a pylon ASAP. And now you have 50 minerals tied up in this Nexus because you double queued these up. When this probe is literally, all it's doing is eating 50 minerals, and it's doing nothing because it still can't even be made for another 5 seconds. So this probe will not start faster than it would have otherwise. It's still going to be waiting, but now your pylon's just delayed. So you got to be careful about shit like that only at the very start. You got to do it. Try to keep a probe always pumping, but also at the same time, try not to delay your building. So when a building needs to get thrown down, prioritize the building that gets thrown down and then make the probe again, but do it quickly. Like, do both quickly. So when you prioritize the building, make the building, but then really quickly pay attention to minerals, and the second you have 50, make a fucking probe. Like, make that thing immediately. Because your pylon right now is about, it should be getting thrown down, honestly, around 18 seconds or so. And your pylon gets thrown down, basically at 24. 23 and a half-ish. It's pretty late. And this kind of stuff screws you if you're dealing with all-ins and stuff. You can macro and defend all-ins easy peasy, but if you waste seconds like this, like what happened there, that will screw you. And now see how you're also supply blocked? You're still trying to make probes, but now you can't because you're supply blocked, because the pylon was super delayed. So that sucks as well. So now your Nexus is effectively doing nothing. And now you have another problem here again. We have two probes queued up again. I want you to do this in general all the time, except for the very beginning of the game, because it screws your buildings over. So now your pylon's going to finish, and you're going to have to wait again on 150 minerals, when it should be starting immediately. Okay, so you did hit 150 right as you got it, but now let's see. Your pylon's done at 41. How long does it take you to build a gateway? You build the gateway at 44. This is something that I'm going to actually go over the next time I make a ViBE series. I'm going to make this a point, because a lot of people that I watch play Perdos do this all the time, And the point I want to make that's a very important point here is, when you're ready to build a building as Protoss, I want your probe to go basically inside the realm or the area of where the building is going to be. So you see how there's that yellow circle around the gateway right there? Your probe should be anywhere inside that yellow circle to build the building. When you're, you know, as the pylon is under construction, you should move the probe to that area. So that as the second you can make it, you throw it down immediately. You don't have to have the travel time for the probe to go over and build a building. Because when you leave a probe elsewhere and it has to like accelerate, which is not full movement speed, by the way, there is something in StarCraft 2 called acceleration and deceleration, and then there's full move speed. It's like a car. Like if a car's drive speed is 60 miles per hour, it still has to go from 0 to 60, and then from 60 back down to 0, and then go from 0 to 60 to move again. If it's going to go from point A to point B, then point B to point C, then point Z to point D, whatever. Unless it's constantly traveling the whole time, it's not always moving full speed. The exact same thing works in StarCraft 2. There's acceleration of units. So the probe going, it starts moving. It like takes like an extra second again on top of that. So not only do you have to travel to the destination, but you have to accelerate to it. And then you also have to decelerate once you get there if you don't build the building even until you let the probe stop. So you should just be inside of it and just build on top of the probe so that it just shoves the probe outwards after he builds the building. And it makes the building start immediately. Because your gate, like I said, was like 3 or 4 seconds later than it should have been. So already your pylon and your gate are delayed in total by like 10 seconds. Or like 9 seconds. Now the second you build the gateway, what you should do is go like this. Go back to your Nexus. Chrono boost it. Build a gas as soon as you have 75 minerals, and then shift right click that probe that built. So click a probe, build the gas, shift right click your the mineral line again. And then as soon as you do that, go back to this probe and right click his natural mineral patch, and then shift right click your main. That's all I want you to do. You can scout into his main base later once you're like, we're talking like upper plat diamond level. Mostly diamond level, but even platinum is like minor scouting even then. But all you really care about is, did this guy throw down an expansion or did he not? That's all you care about. Is it like super delayed? And if he didn't throw down an expansion, all you got to do is make a shield battery. And against Zerg specifically, you could make a zealot. Against Terran and Protoss, you would just make a shield battery and call it a day. But against Zerg, you can make a zealot and a shield battery and then go back to normal. Okay. I don't want you to. I really don't think it's really worth it though for you to scout into his main base, because I think it's just distracting for people in Gold League. It doesn't really help you. Now also, this probe came down to your natural way too fast, and your second gas is also way too fast. So if you're doing beta GM style, you've already kind of fucked it up, unfortunately, because what you want to aim for is go your build in the very beginning of the game, because this is not efficient. I'm just gonna throw this out there. Remember how we talked about the word efficiency? For beta GM, efficiency is the name of the game. And right now, what is happening is you're investing into double gases, and double gas before you expand is only efficient with one type of build. It is only efficient with builds that are tech-heavy timings or all-ins. Like if you were going to go for a really, really fast Stargate, or you're going to go for really fast Dark Templars, you're going to go for a really quick 5 gateway Stalker all-in, or 4 gateway Stalker all-in, whatever. Something like that, double gas would make sense with, like right away. But if you're going to do beta GM style with efficiency and play defensive, you should be going single gas with an expansion and then throwing down your second gas. Because the point is you don't ever want to hit, like, well, as soon as you hit 16 out of 16 probes on this mineral line, you never ever want to take a probe off that mineral line again. You want to hit 16 and leave it there. And if you were to actually saturate these gases properly, by the time your first gas is done, you're going to be at 16. And by the time your second gas is done, you're going to be like at 18. And if you put all 6 probes in those gases, you would go back down to 12 out of 16 on that mineral line. So, not ideal. So all that means is that gas, the first gas is okay. The second gas is not needed this fast. And if you do it efficiently with your minerals, all that means is that your nexus at your natural is now 75 minerals later than it should have been, which is just a delayed nexus for no reason. So you should rally your nexus now to the gas and saturate it with new probes. That's good. You're doing that. That's good. See how this probe is just sitting here forever, though? And now you're making a second gateway. I'm not the biggest fan of this. So ideally what I would have preferred you to have done is I would have preferred you to have made a nexus before making your gateway. And also the gateway's in an awkward position. That gateway also should have been south of the gate. Like you can make gate, core in a line with one grid gap for a doorway against Zerg. The fact that you put double gateway here, all you're doing is you're exposing your pylon and you're making a massive doorway for Zerg to abuse against you. Potentially. If he wants to go early units. Now what do you see with your scout? Again, I would say all you need to do honestly is scout here and run home. What do we see from Zerg? We see a natural that is just starting. This thing is barely in construction. Now here's a tip, okay? This is a tip. If you scouted a Zerg player off of your pylon, okay? Your first probe walks out of your nexus and builds a pylon and then scouts to the Zerg's base. Seeing a hatchery that would be timed like that against your pylon scout would be hatchery first. If you scout a Zerg and you let the probe, so now the other situation is if you build the pylon with that probe, you leave the probe here for 18 seconds while the pylon builds, and then you start a gateway, and then after the gateway, then you go across the map and scout with your probe. If you see a hatchery that looks like this off of a gateway scout, that is pool first. Either that is either proxy hatch or that is pool first. Like there could be a third base there could be a hatchery over here, there's something else going on. This is very late hatchery this late in the game. So if we're talking, if the hatchery were to be standardly timed, like if it was hatchery first, and you were gonna scout him with, you know, your gateway scout, the hatchery should be like there right now. It should be around here in production. It should be like 75-80% of the way done. It should be almost done right now. And if we look at his build, we can see the Zerg went pool first. So, and the reason why is because it's an investment. Look at what you've done already with your minerals. You've made, you know, you have 18 probes. So we're talking about 6 probes investment, which actually is going to be, realistically, it's 10 probe investment. The reason why, or sorry, it's 8 probe investment. The reason why is because you've already invested the minerals for 8 probes. You actually have, because you had 2 queued up is the reason why this makes sense. So it's really 8, it's not 6. You have 6, a second ago you had 6 more than the starting amount. You had 18 instead of 12. I let it play for just a second. Now you have 19 with a 20th probe in production right now. So you've invested what is 12, what 12 plus what equals 20? 12 plus 8. So you've invested into 8 probes. 8 probes is 400 minerals, okay? You've also made a pylon that is now 500 minerals. You've also made a gateway that is 650 minerals. You've also made 2 gases that is 150. That is now 800 minerals. You have spent 800 minerals in this game already. If this fucking Zerg took this long, if this Zerg took this long to spend 350, I'd be like, what? What the hell is this guy doing? It makes no sense. That if you look at it like that, it makes no fucking sense. This is the Zerg's, this is 350 mineral investment. You could have spent 350 minerals a long time ago because you've already spent 800. So if you look at it like that, if you compare your opponent's build to your build and you know what things cost, you can clearly tell that this is a late hatchery. That's why I don't even want you to scout in the main base, because you can clearly tell that this is a pool first. It's irrelevant to scout deeper, because if you do scout deeper and you meta yourself by overthinking about things and you do things like, you know, you start trying to use double gases and go really late nexus or whatever, it's just going to make you play slower. All you have to do in Gold League, if you see someone that looks like they're not playing standard, there's one difference from Protoss. Protoss is super easy. All you do is you go, oh, not standard macro, a little bit of a deviation, Let's make a shield battery. That's it. That's all you do. That's all you do. And if you saw literally no natural at all here, if you saw zero natural, just no natural, I'd be like, okay, maybe you should also make a zealot. The fact that he has a natural, like you could, if you don't make a zealot, I wouldn't give a shit really. I think you'd still probably be fine without one. There's a lot of ways you could handle lings really easy if you didn't even make a battery. Or sorry, if you didn't make a zealot. If you really wanted to make a zealot though, just to feel extra safe, I'd be like, that's fine. But you should already know, you should already have an idea. You could already have an idea what's going on. That's all I'm trying to say. So if I watch your camera now, and you react to what you just saw by making a second gateway, that's overreaction. Now let's watch what else you do. Do you look at your scout? Your probe's just sitting in his base right now. You make your core. So you're exposing the pylon like I talked about. You actually have a doorway here, which is correct, but you're exposing the pylon, which is a massive incorrect. This makes your base super susceptible to all-ins now. Build your gateway like this, and then base your second building off of your first building. So I like that you built your second... I don't like that you built a second gateway this fast, but I like that you built your second building based off your first building. It's just you did it in the wrong way. You should have done it south of it to cover the front of the pylon. And you could do this, okay? You could line it up to be perfectly on it, and you could gap it by one grid. So you could be like, okay, well, I want to plant my gateway, but I want to have a doorway. So you could go like, you could drop it down by one and build it there instead. And now you have a doorway, gateway to gateway, easy peasy. And you could look at below the green box I have right now. You could fit a core south of that, and it would seal the wall off. And it would be a gateway core wall off that has a doorway that can fit a stalker in it eventually. That will be easy as fuck against Zerg, and you're not susceptible to like Banes hitting your pylon or something, or like Lings breaking the pylon. Lots of surface area for Lings to hit your gateway with. It's like if you had a wall straight up across, only about 3 Lings, maybe 4, could hit each building. But the fact that you have such an exposed gateway now, you could line up about 9 Zerglings on this gateway. Like 4 on the top and like 5 on the south end. Literally. And this gateway would die so insanely fast if this guy decided, I'm going to Ling flood you. Like this wall is a big no-no. You never want to have these awkward like peninsula style buildings that are just super exposed on multiple sides. The whole point of walling effectively is you don't want to expose multiple sides of your building. You want to expose literally only one side, maybe if you have to, a fraction of another side if it's a weird wall that goes diagonal, where you have to expose corners of the buildings here and there. That does happen sometimes, but this is definitely... You could fully wall this in a straight line on this map, and you're going in a weird L shape. So keep that in mind. And again, what I think you could have done in this game is I think you could have, honestly... gone gate. So we're talking to build it again, okay? You could have gone pylon, gate, gas, nexus, core, gas, pylon, and then finally another gateway. So your build is super far off right now. All you're doing is you're stunting yourself really hard on your probes. And if I look at your nexus now, we'll go back and we'll watch the nexus production here on the bottom, and let's watch your camera now and see how long it takes you to build probes again. Like if it drop, I guarantee it's going to drop off hard. So 133, okay? Your last probe popped out. And let's see what you do. How long does it take to build a probe? You did not start another probe until 156, 155 maybe. 155 and a half again. That's super late. That's super late. That's you just basically missed a build time of almost 2 probes right there, like 1.5 probes. So, I mean, it's a bit brutal early on in the game like this. And you can see like for instance, the second gas we talked about, it's just doing nothing the whole time. So again, your opener build order should again be pylon, gate, gas, nexus, core, gas, pylon. That if you just memorize that. Everything else is whatever you want it to be, as efficient as you can do it. As long as you can still make probes, it's kind of like whatever. The biggest one of all is you really want to make that fucking nexus. That's the big one. Like, I don't really give a shit about this gas that much. As long as you're not mining it, that's not that bad. I don't really care about these other builds. Like, the fact that you made our second gateway really early, that's not great either. But the fact that you just don't make a nexus is really bad. Because you're going to make one probe, and I would not be surprised if this Nexus goes back to being idle again right after this probe. Because you physically can't do anything with your probes now. Like, you can saturate both gases, but your Nexus and your natural is just so delayed that, yeah. Now, no probes are being made again. There we go. Okay, it's like, it was like 1 second, maybe 2 seconds. Okay, I'm glad you're at least making probes. That's good. I'm glad you're making probes. But do you see what I mean, though? Like, look at the overreaction you had here against the Zerg. And what did the Zerg do to you? The Zerg went pool first, and he made 2 Zerglings. That's literally it. He made 2 Zerglings. You could have made a Stalker and killed this easy peasy. And if you would have made it, if you would have went Nexus and then Core right after your gateway was done, which is very realistic, you could have had a Stalker really early anyways. Like, this was very non-threatening is all I'm saying. And your build now is just under pace. It's behind pacing big time because of how late your natural is. Like, this natural was thrown down at 211, and it should have been thrown down at like 120. So your Nexus, it was almost a full minute late. Is almost a full minute later than it should have been, and the build time of a Nexus is almost a little bit more than a minute. It's actually 71 seconds. So your Nexus by now should already be done, and you should already have probes saturating this natural. That's what I'm saying when I'm like, you're falling super far behind for the what was the reason? Because the opponent made 2 Zerglings. Like, 2 Zerglings are irrelevant. They don't matter. And you could have made a battery because he did go pool first. You could have just made a battery. And, you know, behind this, started making more Stalkers. You could have made your second gateway and your Robo. Whatever. I'm glad you're making a... I think you should make a battery, because he went pool first. But your build's falling off, like, super hard here. Be careful about leaving probes idle like that, too. Like, that's... The reason why this is important is because the lower probe count you have, you basically have to go, what is 1 out of 12? What is 1 out of 13? What's 1 out of 15? What's 1 out of 20? What's 1 out of 28? These are like percentages of your economy. And every single time you get another probe, each idle probe matters less. So if you had 1 idle probe when you had 70 probes, I'd be like, yeah, who cares? It's like 1.3% of your economy or whatever, something like that. It's not going to be that big of a deal. But when it's like 1 out of 20, it's like 5% of your economy. That's just doing nothing. So that is a big deal. That's a huge deal. And if you're also combining that with like a probe scouting as well, and another probe going over and like building something else, if it just something does, you know, like this, like where it builds something and runs across. Like, I understand you're transferring a probe to your natural, that makes sense, but every probe matters so much in the early game. So you really want to be careful about having a purpose for why you leave probes idle. Like, the only time I would ever say it made sense to leave a probe idle was when you made your first pylon to then wait to build your gateway because you're going to scout with it. It's eventually going to be your scouting probe. That's the only time it made sense to be idle. But then if you remember, at the start of this lesson, I told you how to make him not go idle as well, if you remember that. It was when I said, make sure you grab your probe and you could like mine a patch and then hold shift and right click your patch. What does that do? It makes it so your probe is going to scout across the map and it's not going to be idle. It's not just going to sit there and do nothing. It's going to do its job and then it's going to go mine minerals. And again, the scouting is super basic. It's just, is there a natural here? Is there not? Should I make a shield battery? That's all it is. Hey ViBE, great advice. How long have you been playing StarCraft 2? Since the beginning. This is advice for Gold League as well. This is not advice I would ever give anyone in GM, because GM players are GM players are super advanced. But yeah, for Gold League, it's priorities of early game and learning how to macro. And yeah, this is a Gold League lesson for like a replay analysis. Good morning, ViBE. Oh, good morning. Hello. All right, so you're making Immortals, you're making Stalker, or you're making, you know, yeah, there you go, Stalkers. I would say 1 Sentry and you're good. You don't need 2. The reason why is because this unit is super gas expensive. And this unit is a unit that scales better with micro, and it scales worse without micro. So if you're not someone who's going to micro, which I don't think you should be if you're in Gold League, don't make more than 1 of this unit. This unit's really garbage if you don't micro it. I only want you to make 1 so you can do hallucinated scouts. And then if you really felt like you needed to, you could also throw down like 1 force field in your doorway, which would be fine if you get all in by like whatever. But yeah, definitely don't make 2 of them. Like, do your best to just make 1 and done. And then, yeah, you can use it to like make yourself feel comfortable at scouting and stuff like that. Like, just do a pass over his base. And realistically, in Gold League, I don't even want you to look at really what tech he's going for. Who cares? What I want you to look at is how many bases is he on. So just like hold shift and be like click, 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 click. You could do it on the mini map as well. So you could be like click, 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 click. Easy peasy. You just want to see base count. You don't actually give a shit about anything else. And if you happen to just mouse over your you know, you click on the mini map where your hallucination's flying over and you're like, oh, look at that blob of Zerglings. Well, now you know he's going for a lot of Zerglings. Or if you're like, look at that blob of roaches. Now you know he's going for roaches. But what you're doing shouldn't change. You're still going to go efficient macro with Stalkers and Immortals and eventually go into Archon and Charge Lot and whatever. Just spend your money, essentially, is all we're doing here. And you're playing defensive. And right about now, right around, like, when your natural mineral line is fully saturated, and I would say your natural mineral line, it's saturated relatively okay, and the reason why is because at least you kept making probes in your main after you were oversaturated. But you're going to take your 3rd base around the time when your main, I said this in another lesson I did today, and I'll say it again. The proper timing for expansions of players and for efficient expanding is when your mineral line is fully saturated. 16 minerals, 16 probes in the mineral line, so 16 out of 16. When you hit that saturation, you should be thinking to yourself, I should be expanding soon. So that's why that's why I said you should have been expanding when your Pylon Gateway Nexus, and you should also now when your 3rd base is ready to go, your natural is fully saturated. So you should be taking your 3rd base right about now. Realistically, you could honestly throw your 3rd down around 445, 450. That'd be a greatly timed 3rd with good efficiency of defensive play. We're at 502, so you're a little bit late, but you're still at 16 minerals on the mineral line, or 16 probes on the mineral line, so you should definitely be taking your 3rd like right about now. Because otherwise, again, you're going to oversaturate and have nowhere to send your probes to unless you just oversaturate the shit out of your base. Like, you should still keep making probes, but you should definitely also try to pace your expansions at a good time. So like right there, you can see he took a 3rd base. Cool. That's all you really care about. 3rd base is Zerg. Nice. And check this out too. So we just saw units, but for fun, look at the army tab here. You have 32 army supply. Zerg has 19. Zerg also only has 13 Zerglings. I want you to know something, that army supply for Zerg includes queens. So you realistically are fighting a Zerg player who has 11 army supply, essentially. Or like, or no, what is that? It's like 6.5. What am I talking about? What does he have in production? I hit shit. Hold on. Go back to the part I was just at. Okay, that's where I was at. I hit the wrong button. So yeah, no, he's got 13 lings. It's half supply for a ling, so that's 6.5 supply. He literally has 6.5 army supply. He might have more. Wait, how many queens does he have again? He has that's 12 supply in queens. So it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. The half supply is like giving him 1 more. I was like, am I doing this right? Yeah, it's right. I don't know why I was so confused there for a second, but it's 6.5. 6.5. He has 6.5 fucking army supply. You have 26. And your 26 army supply is real. There is no macro mechanic for Protoss where it's like Protoss queens. It's Chrono Boost, which costs no supply. So your supply is literally an Immortal Archon, or sorry, Immortal Zealot Sentry Stalker. Your army would fucking destroy his army. He doesn't even have speed yet. Even if he did, it wouldn't matter. Your army could be half as big and still crush the shit out of this. So that's what I'm saying. If you just do it efficiently, if you just feel if you're doing a build that's efficient, you should not feel intimidated to be like, all right, we're going to die right now. I'm not going to lie. There might be some games where your opponent will literally make only like 19 drones or like 16 drones, and they will just slam lings out over and over and over and over and over and over. And then you'll be like, okay, well, I have, 26 army supply, and Zerg has 40 army supply because he has 80 lings right now. And he's just making mass lings off of 16 drones. Yes, that could happen to you. It could happen. But if that happens to you, if you can happen to just get a Nexus down, make a pylon at it, make maybe another pylon at it, and just tuck your army back in the middle line, you actually have a realistic chance to not even die then. The only time you might die to someone who plays like that, if you're not the best at micro, is if he catches you in transit, where he's like, he catches you as you're walking to your third base. It's a risk you should be taking, because the amount of players in Gold League that will know how to punish that is like 0% of players. Like, for instance, if you expanded at 445, look what the Zerg player was doing at 445. You could throw down all three of your pylon Nexus at between 445 to 455. Easy. What does he do between that time frame? You would already have had, by now, a Nexus, double pylon, and your army tucked back there. So you would have had whatever exists here aside from like one Stalker, which is, you would have had 2 sentries, a Zealot, and 5 Stalkers, because you have 6. 5 Stalker, 2 Sentry, 1 Zealot would all be tucked away back here. And then 1 Stalker would be right there in the whole position on the doorway. And then all your new units, your new Immortals, your new Stalkers you make would be warping in right behind your Stalker, your natural. You would just balance it. Like, warp in new shit behind the wall that exists and have your existing army over here just defend it while it's being built. And then as soon as the Nexus is done, or sorry, as soon as the pylons are done over here, you can make a battery, and you can make more gateways to, like, prevent more surface area from Zerg. But the point I'm trying to make here is this Zerg had 0 way to punish you if you just played efficiently. If you did an efficient expansion timing, 0 way to punish you. And look at your mineral line right now. You should be easily at 16 already. I mean, you're supply blocked again right now, which sucks for you. But again, if you just fix this probe, you would already be still 16 to 16 on the mineral line. So it's like those are the timings you should think about. That's how you expand. That's what makes sense. All right, we're going forward. Okay, now you're taking your third. I would say this pylon, I don't like it, because think about how you're going to use this pylon. It's going to be super exposed. Is like super exposed pylon. The only way this would make sense is if you plan on building gateways like in a wall like that. Which is just awkward, because, I mean, that kind of limits you to expand anymore, because this is all area that you control. You should worry about this area, and you should worry about this area. So putting gateways there, all that does is it fucks over you more than it does the Zerg, because it makes it harder for you to reinforce either side. So this pylon is awkward. This pylon should exist, like, right there. Why that makes sense to put it right there is because you don't have to use the pylon. This pylon could be used for warp-ins and powering a shield battery. It doesn't actually get used for like gateways because it's on the inside of your base. It's the inner pylon. But what it does do is it limits Zerg surface area if you put your army there and the pylon is there. If the pylon's there, like look at that. That's about the size of a pylon against a Nexus. Now imagine if Zerglings were flooding you from the north side of your Nexus and your army was right there. How much surface area are these Zerglings really going to get? They can't go to the right because that walls off with mineral field and wall. And if they go straight into it, they get like 2 Zerglings at a time hallway. It's like another door, like your front door here, that you just artificially created. And if you put another pylon right there, you do the same fucking thing with this mineral field. Your army could easily defend this base against a Ling Flood because you tuck it in the back. You would make the Zerglings have to focus fire the Nexus itself or the pylon, which is going to buy you time to kill Zerglings. And Protoss units kill Zerglings pretty damn fast. And then when this pylon is done, you could add in gateways. Gateway. 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 And you could attach it to the side of the Nexus like that with 3 gateways against the wall. So that now The only way Zerglings can attack your Nexus or your mineral line here is if they run around your gateways into the mineral line. And you could fully wall it off if you really wanted to, or you could leave it open so that you could then do the exact same thing over here, where you make a Nexus and you make a pylon on this side, or like a pylon there and a pylon here, same fucking thing, and you build gateway, 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 and you just, again, you limit the outer edge, the outside of where the Zerg can engage you is where you make gateway wall up to Nexus. You always attach the outer wall to your Nexus. Always. So if I were to expand here, what should I do? I would make a Nexus. I can make a pylon. I can make a pylon. Same fucking thing. If I was going to do this early. And what pylon would be the outer pylon? What's pylon's the inner pylon? This is the inner pylon. So this pylon is just there to power shit. Like a battery or whatever. To make warpins. Whatever I want to do. This pylon could make gateway. 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 And suddenly, these gateways, like you could diagonal them over a little bit to the top of the Nexus. And now the outer wall is sealed. So I'm not going to be just have lings flooding me from the north side, which is the outer side for where Zerg could be. That's how you should be sim-sitting your base all the time. So this pylon defeats that whole purpose. It makes no sense where you put it. Because look how exposed your units are. I'm glad that you go between the Nexus and the mineral line at least, but like you're leaving big surface area. And also, you're not really tight. Like, if he flooded you, like, there could be some good surface area for Zerg here. And you're leaving your natural door open, which is also a big, scary no-no. You definitely don't want to do that. This is super scary. If the Zerg flooded you in your natural right now, you would die. Yeah, you'd never leave your door open like this, ever, against Zerg. Also, really, I mean, I don't expect perfect play, but really try to get out of the habit of making pylons as part of your wall. It's so bad to do that. Like, pylons are only supposed to be part of your wall if they're not done yet, like what I talked about here. If the Zerg happened to attack you at that exact moment in time. But, like, notice how when I was talking about, like, if you made a pylon here and you made gateway line in a wall like that against the Nexus and the edge of the map, or the edge of, like, the terrain here, I'm not telling you to make a gateway and a pylon and then a gateway and then a pylon. Don't do that. All that does is it creates little pockets or little holes that Zerg can abuse. It takes like only 5 banelings to kill a pylon, and instead it takes like 14 banelings to kill a gateway. That's a big difference. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much more expensive for Zerg to break gateways down than it is for Zerg to break pylons down. And also, it's also not good to expose your pylons for the simple fact that if your pylon in the wall is the only thing powering the gateways, or whatever buildings you're making, if it dies, everything gets underpowered anyways. And then they're like inactive, and they're just waiting to be powered again, which sucks even worse. Once you have a third base set up, though, like these 3 gates, honestly, should be here. This third mineral line is super exposed. Like right now, I like where your army's located. I like where it's located. I do not like where these gateways are located. Because you're completely exposed if the Zerg does this. Run away. Like, you don't stop him in any way to do that. But if you had gateways here to prevent, like, to limit some of the surface area, if your army is located in the heart, it would make the Zerg have to do this. To attack your mineral line right there, he would have to go like this. Up and around. And as he goes up and around, because you have gateways walling it out, he engages your army. If he comes this way to go to your natural, he engages your army. And if he just sits straight up on the gateways, they are way tankier than pylons, and you could easily walk here to there. That takes about 2 seconds to go from there to there, or like 3 seconds, and you kill him off the gateways. You'd be totally fine. This is just super exposed, and this is excessive here. You don't need these here right now, because all it does. Like, I like that you made more gates, but I don't like where you put them. Now we're getting to the problem of your probes production is kind of stopping a lot. So to give you some ideas of some timers here that might make your life a little easier. Your natural should go down around 120. Your third base should go down around 450 to 5 minutes. Your fourth base should go down around 7 minutes. And you're at 61 probes at almost 8 minutes, and you don't have a fourth started. Because the idea is you want to take a fifth, you want to start your fourth base before your mineral patches start mining out your main base. And then you want to take another base again, your fifth base. You should be taking a fifth base already because your main base is already mining out. And you should be taking a sixth base when your natural mines out. This is the most common problem of players in lower leagues where they struggle with macro, is because they over-defend shit and they play more panicky and they never expand at proper times. They always play, they always they go okay just for a little bit and then they start dropping off. And they just their macro just literally drops off a fucking cliff. And, you know, they just fall behind to what efficiency should be. Because, if you haven't even started a fourth base by the time also your natural starts mining out, which is going to be soon here, your natural's going to start having problems in about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. It's not as soon as it should be because your natural was late. But yeah, it's still going to be somewhat soon. Your upgrade timing, the timing of when you build your upgrade buildings is good. It's good. I like it. So it's not good according to the clock. I want you to know that. This is not good for what time of the game you're at, but it is good for the concept of what you're at in the game, which is you've saturated your third base, and now you're adding on Forge Council. I like that. You have the right idea when to build it. It's just you're building everything late. So after your third base is when you should add your upgrades. That's good. And you should be chronoing constantly. Nexus. And then as soon as you're at 70 plus probes, because you've already fully saturated 3 bases, and then now finally your Forge Council are done, then you go from chronoing your Nexus to now chronoing your upgrades. But you should already be 70 plus probes by 7 minutes. You're at 64 by 8:24. That's super delayed. And now your fourth base is starting when, again, like I said before, it should have been your fifth base because you're already mining out as well. The concept is you want to have 4 active bases, not just 4 bases. So this is no longer becoming an active base. It's starting to lose its efficiency. You also got to be really careful too. I know it's a lot to take in, but you got to be really careful about shit like this. You're doing it on every base. Gas inefficient. Gas was, you actually just fixed that. You just fixed that. Gas was inefficient. And, you know, obviously mineral line's inefficient because you're mining out patches. This is not that bad. It's 11. It's not that bad. It shows me that you're taking probes off over time. And then this base, gas inefficient again. And obviously mineral line has to be inefficient because your fourth base isn't even started yet. So that's because your fourth base is super delayed. But you had an inefficient gas at every single base. You gotta be really careful about shit like that. You gotta make sure shit like that does not happen because that does add up over time. Remember how I talked about? Remember what I talked about in terms of percentages of economy? Gas probes are really important, and the reason why is because you're supposed to have 6, 12, 18. What is 1 out of 18? That's 7% or something, right? You guys could do the math, but it's 6 decimal or maybe 7. It's around there. I don't know the exact number. But that's a big chunk of your economy, and right now you're missing, let's just say it's 6.5, okay? I'm just going to throw that out there. 6.5, 13, 19.5. 19.5% of your entire gas economy is literally fucking in the trash can. So it's not good. It's 5.5? Well, there you go. It's still a lot, is my point. It's a big chunk of your economy. You got to be really careful about shit like that. That is a big priority. And now you can see, look where the Zerg is attacking you from. He's attacking you from the outside. So if we're talking about when you build your Nexus is 16 seconds in the way in. Pylons are 10. This pylon is 13, so that's okay. I would say that's fine. But you gotta be, again, now I would say what you should be doing is your army should probably be located right here now. You always want to locate your army in the center of your base. You don't want to lopside it. So this army should be located in the center, right. I would say right about here is the center of your base now. You should always have your door covered Never leave your door open, ever. Like, warping shit on the outside of your door, and if immortals get stuck, every once in a while, just grab the units and, like, move the immortals out of your base, and then replant the stalker or something in your doorway. Try to never let that shit be open like that. That's really bad. I mean, you could catch it if you were fast enough and warp in a unit as Zerg approaches you, but that's still really scary. Like, if he does a run by, that's potentially game ending. And then the second your pylons are done, you should be building gateways immediately. So let's look at the outer pylon finishes at like 842. Gateway, gateway, gateway. 3 gateways. You should be not if you really wanted to, you could fully seal this off. I'd say that would also be okay for Gold League, honestly. You could seal it off in Gold League, but you should at the very least, connect the wall to the Nexus. Yo, Temple Jesus, thank you very much for the raid, dude. We're doing our replay analysis, guys. Welcome. Much love. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Like, you definitely have, like, the ability here to wall this off. To like, seal the side of it a bit. And let's see how long it takes. How long is, like, 842. So you get attacked at 8:53. You had about 10 seconds, roughly. I know it's 11, but that's plenty of time to have at least started initially a few gateways, which would have bought you time to save your Nexus. You could have easily, if there's gateways here, if the Zerg kills those gates, you could always cancel them, and it buys your Nexus and a few, like, maybe like 4 more seconds of time where the Zerg units just get stupid on the gateways for you to walk over. 4 seconds if you moved right away. That's going from, like, where you are right now to, like, right there by 4 seconds from now. Honestly. Maybe from there to, like, right there. In about 4 seconds. And from when you're right there, you're about 2 seconds away from the Nexus. You could easily save the Nexus. And if the Zerg decides to just skip the gateways and you react right away, and he just runs around the Nexus, if the Zerg runs around your gateways and goes for the Nexus, you know what you could do then? You could trap the Zerglings and kill all of his Zerglings to cancel the Nexus. You could go from where you are now to over here. If the Zerglings just literally, if there were gateways here, and the Zerglings just right-clicked your Nexus, only a couple of his lings would maybe hit it from the top side, because again, you'd have gateway, gateway, gateway. Not many lings could hit the top side, so they would get all on the right side, all on the south side, all on this side, and they would all get stuck in the south side of your base. Which would mean, if you walked your army right there, as he was killing your Nexus, you could then put a force field like right there. You could cancel the Nexus, and he would be stuck between your army and the gateways. And he can't kill gateways while you're killing his Zerglings. You would kill all the lings before the gateways would die. Guaranteed. So you're not really setting up your base as defensive as you could be. You have the right idea. I like that you're doing SimCity with gates, but like you left this totally exposed right off the bat, which was vulnerable to run-bys. And you're doing the same thing right here again. Like, you're not really utilizing it. And your Nexus is going to get canceled now. Now, you should be immediately doing it again. So I'm glad you are, but what probe are you using? Okay, you got to be careful about this too. If you rip off the gas, I don't mind that you rip off the gas. That's okay, but fix it. If you leave that at 1 probe forever, that's... And the fact also, here's what I would say. With the base setup you've given yourself, where you walled this off, what I would tell you would be good is I would say maybe leave like 1/4 of your army right here. With just the setup you've given yourself. Because you made another wall here that covers your natural, your third, and your main from this entrance. Like 1/4 of your army here, because this is super defensible, because it's SimCity'd. And then leave like 3/4 of your army over here. You could do that too, because this base is super exposed. So all that I can see happening again, if the Zerg is assertive, he could come right back again and go, oh, let's kill the Nexus again. Because you're totally leaving it exposed again. Which is scary. Like, if there is an Overlord right here watching you do this over and over and over, he could keep re-abusing you again and again and again. Careful with that gas. Gas is good. This gas is still fucked as well. Now, the pylon's done. Gateways immediately. Your first 4 bases should have gateways at every base. Your first 4 gates, or sorry, your first 4 nexus should have gates at every base. Because you definitely don't have enough gates right now. Like if we're talking 10 minutes, you should have more supply than you do. If we're talking about like efficient like expansion timings and stuff like that, you should already be 80 plus probes. You have 67. You should already be at almost 10 minutes. You should seriously be about to max out. You should be like at 180 plus right now. Maybe even max if you're playing like a fucking boss and you're just cruising. But at least like 180 plus if we're talking like really, you know, efficient levels of macro here. But I mean, it's clear why you're not there. It's because your opener was really delayed, super delayed, super delayed. So I don't mind that you're going cannon battery at bases. I think that you should do that though at bases 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever, 5 and beyond. But for against Zerg, you should do gateways, in my opinion, at bases 1, 2, 3, 4, because you take them very fast while you're building probes, and because you're not even if you build gateways at your first 4 bases, you are still not even gonna have enough gateways to be done. You're still gonna have you're gonna have probably like 2 gateways for your main and natural. You're gonna have like 3 more gateways for your third, and you're gonna have like 3 more gateways for your fourth. So that takes you to 8 gateways in total. You really want to go to probably like 18 gateways or like 20 gateways by the time you're around 10 minutes, when you're about to max out, and then you start going gateway crazy, because you're going to develop a massive bank otherwise that you'll never be able to spend. And you can add in those extra gates at like your 5th base if you really wanted to, or you could add those in into your main base, like the other 10 gateways that you're missing. But yeah, you're just behind pace. Like your probe count being at 73 at 10 minutes is very slow.
I'm here in the shadows.
It's because of lots of idle probe time, and you're also not ever spending chrono boost. And also the fact that you're still 0-0 by 10.5 minutes is kind of scary, because if we're talking, you take your third by 450 and you're fully saturated by 7 minutes, and you take your Forge Council around 7 minutes when you take your 4th base. Like, you start your Forge Council around the time when you also start your 4th, because you take it after you're saturating your 3rd. You could already be, right now, if you chrono boosted your upgrades, easily 1-1, possibly close to 2-2. But you're just not chrono boosting anything. So you just remember, first chrono boost always happens after the first pylon is done. Second chrono boost always happens after the second pylon is done. And from that point on, it's just chronoing your gateways like fucking crazy until you have the forges, and then you chrono boost forever forges. Just chrono boost your forges until you're 3-3 constantly. And also the upgrades you got, I'm not a big fan of against Zerg. I like it against Terran, but against Zerg, actually what I would say you should do is get weapons and shield upgrades. And the reason why you should do that is because you're using SimCity defense, and armor does not benefit your shields, or like it doesn't do anything to your buildings, but shields does. Shields not only benefits your army, but it also benefits your buildings. So if you're worried about Zergs doing run bys and shit like this guy is, do a shield upgrade with weapon upgrade. And what that will also do is, if you eventually go into like Archons, when you start going, I have a lot of gas, let's make Archons. It makes Archons better too. And Archons are actually amazing if you have shield upgrades. Archons get basically no benefit from armor because they have 10 hit points, which is like dead. It's like 1 hit and it's dead. Like a Hydra shoots it once and the Archon's like, it just fucking dies. Like if it has no shields left. But if it has shields, it has 350 shields. It has 35 times the amount of shield that it does actual health. So Archons benefit from shield upgrades like crazy against Zerg. And so do buildings. And then it makes your cannons better, it makes your batteries better, it makes batteries last longer when you're defending against run-bys of random stuff. Hydras, roaches, lings, whatever. Shield batteries last longer because they have to expend less to heal the buildings. Because the buildings take less damage. So, remember what I said? 4 bases. 5th base, because your main's mining out. 6th base, because your natural is mining out. 7th base, as soon as this base starts mining out. You're already, right now, you're 2 bases behind where you should be. You should already be on 6 bases. This is why macro is really hard. And a lot of people that don't think it's hard don't respect it enough. In low leagues, they're like, macro's easy. I'm gold. I'm not saying you. By the way, John, I'm not saying that you're doing this. Just a lot of people in general, when I talk to people, they always like a lot of people say this kind of stuff. Like, I don't need to worry about macro, dude. I'm good at it already. How do I micro? And I'm watching these guys have like 55 workers by 12 minutes, and they have 3 bases, and like 2 of their bases already almost mined out, and it's just like their economy is like they're earning like 1,200 minerals a minute. Like, your macro fucking sucks. Like. I don't know if you think it's good, but it's not. Okay, so in a situation like this, I don't care what he's making. I know he's got Mass Lurker Ling, and Mass Lurker Ling is scary for you to deal with. But the one thing you could make that would make your life easy, which you should just be making in general when your resources start to do what they're doing, is Archons. If you made Archons, you would have a much better chance at killing this army. This is how you would micro it. This is all you would do. Select all army. A move. Click your observer and tell it to follow an immortal. Forget about it. It's done. It's all you do. And if you had Archons in this army, because the reason why I tell you should have them is because you have a lot more gas than you have minerals. Your economy is starting to becoming lopsided. It's starting to become lopsided. So if you had Archons in here, Archons would fix your economy, your resources, and Archons would annihilate Zerglings. Like, ridiculously fast. I wanted to swear a lot right there, but I didn't. Really fast. These Lings would die so fast against like 5 Archons. They would die within about 5 seconds. All of them. If the Archons are backed up by Zealots, Stalkers, Immortals, whatever. But what's going to happen to you now is that your army is going to take so long to kill these Lings because you have nothing but Stalkers. And even though you only have Stalkers, I still think that's not like I'm like, well, guess what? You fucked up. Like, if you can just macro efficiently, that's still okay. But the problem I would say for you is nothing's really died yet in this fight, yet you still only have 179 supply at 11.5 minutes. The fact that you're not maxed out is scary for you. You should have maxed out over a minute ago. So keep that in mind, okay? Keep that in mind. That is important. So what I'm saying is, Stalkers are the worst option for this fight specifically, which is why if you just by how you should macro in general, if you had Archons here, it would make your life so much easier. But what's going to happen now is your Stalkers are going to take so long to kill these Lings that his Lurkers are going to have more time to punch a hole into your Stalkers. So you should definitely be making Archons right now. How many gateways do you have? You have 8, 9, 10. You have 10 now. At like 12 minutes, you should already have 18 gateways. Because look at your bank. Like, again, you should already have been able to have maxed out. And the reason why you're not having... so, this music is like a little loud. Hold on. Chill out, music. I'm like trying to think, and it's like... I can't fucking think. Okay. It's like a marching band's outside my room right now. Now, if you had 6 bases like we talked about earlier, if you were following that method of efficiency, you wouldn't have shit like oversaturated mineral line, undersaturated gas, oversaturated mineral line, undersaturated gas, good base, oversaturated mineral line. You would not have problems like this And you would have also had more probes faster than otherwise. You also have 3 probes doing nothing. You have a probe there doing nothing. You have probes in your army doing nothing. So more of your bases would be oversaturated as well. Like, there's just some probes that are just kind of probably green boxed or something into your army. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Who cares? The point I'm trying to make here is you could just have more resources being efficiently mined with more bases, which is how it should be going for you. Which would allow you to have more stuff, more gates, more remax potential. So even though you had an army that is not properly, designed to deal with Ling Lurker, like Stalkers do not want to fight Ling Lurker. On paper, Stalkers lose that fight. But on macro, Stalkers win that fight if you actually had what you needed here. If you already had 18 to 20 gateways and 6 bases, because you're hitting the timings of efficiency of just macro. Like, again, 4 bases by the timings we said earlier, and you add on another base for every base that starts mining out. 5th base, 6th base, 7th base, 8th base, so on and so on and so on. But this base is good, this base is good, so take off 2 of those bases, so it's really 6 bases. Because again, 4 plus 1, 2. These bases are not good anymore. And it's getting worse by the second. Patch is going to mine out. Patch is going to mine out. Patch is going to mine out. Like, these bases are they're dwindling by the minute here. So your income is going to just drop off from where it's going to get worse than it is now. It's not going to maintain. And that's bad. So again, all I'm trying to say is if your army composition is not ideal, you would still win if you just had better macro. Like, your chances are still good if you just had more money. Also, the best thing you could do against Lurker, by the way, the best thing you could do against this army to like break it, to punch a hole into it without micro, is go like this. Green box, right click. Green box half of your army and right click up here. Half your army stays here and you just say A move wherever they would pincer. If you imagine a line going from here, imagine a line going directly at the Zerg army. Imagine a line going directly at the Zerg army. I wouldn't say you want to click there. I wouldn't say you want to click there. You definitely don't want to click there. You'd want to click like right there. That way this army goes directly through his army and this army goes directly through his army. You create a move where you have more surface area, which makes Lurkers go opposite attacks instead of everything focusing in a choke point. That'd be a great way to fight a Lurker army with just straight up a move. Now, when you're more advanced, you could definitely break this with like disruptors or something. That would be fucking amazing. Or the fact that you have the idea to go to Stargate is also not the worst idea. That's okay. But yeah, if you just always attack it from one angle, that's probably not going to go too well for you. Also, he has 0 air units, so the fact that you're making Stargates is nice, but we'll see what happens. But again, you could be this army if you just had more stuff, more money, more overall economy going on. And again, composition doesn't really matter. It really doesn't matter. It's just macro. You guys have to... Lower level players won't realize this. You guys won't realize this. This would not even be happening if the Protoss player macroed more efficiently. And why is that? Let's so this is 12 minutes and 40 seconds is like, god damn, this looks scary for Protoss, right? Wow. Scary stuff. You could max out his Protoss around here. Max out around now. Zerg can max out about a minute before this, by the way. But as Protoss in Beta GM can max out about right now. Okay? Now you should have already maxed out from here. Like realistically, you should like around 10 minutes or like 9:50. You should be sending out a zealot or something like a stalker or a zealot around the sides of the map. Go one dude scout this side, one dude scout this side. Scout the sides of the map, right? And what would we see? We would see this is the most exposed base of Zerg. And around 10:30, you could already be like moving out to go attack it. If you moved out to attack the Zerg at 10:30, let's look and see what the Zerg has at 10:30. So what does the Zerg have right now at 10:30? He's got 7 lurkers, He's got, let's look at an up unit stab. 7 Lurker, 16 Hydra, 82 Lings. This is still a formidable army. It's not bad. But the point I'm trying to make here is it not only if you were already moving out, let's say you made the Zerg fight defensively at his base. Maybe you kill his hatchery because he's over here. Maybe you just walk straight up to this base because you scouted it. And Zerg comes over to defend his base rather than attack yours. And you might lose a lot of army in the process, but he'll lose economy and army in the process. And you just remax. And when you remax, his economy goes from 3,000 and then 1,200 down to like 2,100 and like 900. And why would that happen? Because he loses a base of economy. Like if that were to go that way, that'd be great for you. But if you don't kill this base of economy, let's say you end up fighting him right here in the middle of the map, it gives you more time, more surface area not only to use, you have bigger choke points to work with, which is great for you in this situation because he's going Lurker, and Lurker fucking dominates choke points. So the bigger surface area you have, the better. And Lings shouldn't really be a problem for you because, again, if you were making some Archons, Lings would just get annihilated. You should always be making Archons. That's just a given. You should always make Archons against Zerg. All the time. You always do that. It's so good. If you really want to beef your army up. And then, you know, if you're fighting in the open, you have much more higher chances to overwhelm his army because Lurkers are not hitting like 7 units per shot because you're so clumped up. They're hitting like 3 units or 2 units because your army concaves out a lot wider. So, like, my point I'm trying to make here is this game would have looked a lot different if the Protoss was already maxed out and already pushing with more open area. Because think about this too. Look at the Zerg's economy. Inefficient. Inefficient. It's undersaturated. Inefficient. It's oversaturated. And inefficient. It's undersaturated on gases. The Zerg's economy is not looking that great either. And you know what? Like, the Zerg actually has not mined out his natural because he doesn't even have 16 drones here. Like, look at your natural. It's already mining out, or, sorry, we went back. That's why. Sorry, that's why. But still, he only has 11 drones, okay? That's not good. The point I'm trying to make here is you guys both have mined out your main bases, and you guys both went for high worker counts, but neither one of you went for a 5th base yet. So you're both in the realm of having a shitty economy every minute that goes on now. It's going to become worse and worse and worse and worse. Neither one of you is playing efficient. So if you were fighting the Zerg in the middle of the map, playing efficient with your economy, and taking trades after trades after trades with the Zerg in the middle of the map, you would overpower him over time if your economy was actually efficient. And then think about this too. Think about this as well. If you also fought Zerg in the middle of the map right now because you were maxed out at 10:30, you would have seen Lurkers a lot sooner. And you could have done something like if you really wanted to, you could have made your Stargates or whatever. If you've really felt the need to do that. Or you could have made more Robos to make more Immortals faster. Immortals are a great counter to Lurkers if you have a lot of them. If a Zerg has 10 Lurkers and you have 10 Immortals, and you're in a big concave, Immortals will fucking pound Lurkers. Like, crazy hard. So, again, I'm not trying to make you realize, I'm not trying to make you think that the reason why you're going to get fucked here, and probably in a second, is because of your composition. It's, like, I don't care about that, really. It's not the biggest deal. It's because of your macro. It's because all your timings are late, and you don't have enough, you're not able to overwhelm your opponent through economy, nor is he, because neither one of you is playing efficient. Neither one of you is playing actually efficient here. So, if one of you was, you would overwhelm the other one, even if you had the wrong army. Unless you took ridiculously bad trades that were like 4-to-1 differences, where it's like, I lose 8,000, you lose 2,000 every time we fight, then obviously the guy with the shittier economy still could win if he's taking amazing trades like that. But he shouldn't be able to do that if you have constant remaxes, which is what the whole point of BGM is. Alright, so we're going to speed it up now a little bit, back to 1240, which is what we were just at. He kills your 4th base. And now you're starting to get stuck in this like contained game, which sucks for you. And like I said before, this is not the best army because your units get caught up on the Lings for so long while the Lurkers just pound your face off. Yeah, it's at this point now it's going to feel hard because At this point, you have to micro now to get out of the situation, which is not what you should be aiming for in Gold League. So this is one of those games that I would say you've lost this game. Honestly, the position you're in, you're going to die unless you have insane micro and you have good multitasking. And I'm not going to tell you, oh yeah, just work on that for Gold League. No, that's a horrible idea. What you should work on is not getting yourself in this situation by being more efficient and faster. You can't even play, like, because I'm going to tell you right now, if you play against someone in Diamond League or like in Masters League that is efficient, you wouldn't even be in this situation because you would have died 4 minutes ago. You should have actually died a long time ago to Zerg if the guy was actually efficient. But like I said, neither one of you is efficient, which is why this game is so long. But now, since he's going Lurker heavy and you're going Stalker heavy, you're going to die because you have less money to work with. Watch your economy. It's gonna just keep dipping more and more and more. Like, you're under him forever now. You're just going to forever be lower than him. So to give you an idea, in this position you're in right now, and you can't, so the reason why you have to micro to get out of this, okay? The reason why you have to micro, otherwise you're dead now, is because you're being contained by a Zerg with a better army than you at the moment, and you have less money than he does too. That's a double negative, which means you're fucking dead. The only way out of this is to transition your army, and a great transition to fuck this guy over would be Archons and Disruptors. Void Rays are okay for a moment, but if this guy just makes a big ass round of Hydras, they're gonna do nothing. They'll do nothing after that. It only will work if he just doesn't understand how that fact that Lurkers can't hit air, and he just lets all of his Lurkers die. But he could literally just up burrow, run away, make like 30 Hydras because he has enough money to do it, and then come right back and he kills you. So Voids, I would say, are kind of a scary option. The Voids would have been okay if you had more money, or air units in general would have been okay if you had more money, but now you're in the situation where you don't have money. So anything you make has to be super efficient. Voids are not super efficient against Hydras in low numbers, which is what you're going to have. So again, if you made Disruptors and Archons could easily handle all the Lings, and Disruptors could repeatedly kill Lurker after Lurker after Lurker after Lurker after Lurker. Disruptors can outrange, they can siege Lurkers. They have better siege than Lurkers do. And 2 Disruptor shots kills a Lurker, and you can shoot it in the middle of clumps of them, so you could kill like 5 at a time. But again, Gold League, don't micro Disruptors. Like, that's why I'm saying, like, you should look at this as gold, and you're dead already. This is the hardest thing to explain to people. Yes, you could use Disruptors here, but if you're always getting in games where you're like, oh, I gotta use Disruptors, you're gonna be doing that forever because your macro fucking sucks. That is a fucking fact. I know some Gold players are listening to this right now, and I'm probably blowing your mind. I hope I just blew your mind. Because you should not ever need to go Disruptors in Gold League. Because if you didn't have bad macro, you would have already, like, same thing with this Zerg player. If he went up against a Protoss player with good macro, he would have died 5 minutes ago now. 4 or 5 minutes ago. He would already be dead. And this situation wouldn't even be a thing. So that's the reason why I don't like people focusing on micro-based things. Even though I wanted to give you the answer there, so you just kind of know. I don't like it when people focus on it, though. Because if your idea is always to focus on the micro element when you can't even macro properly, you're never going to get out of Gold League. And if you do, you'll be stuck in Platinum for life. Like, you're never going to get really advanced very fast. You're going to advance super slow, like a fucking snail, in terms of how fast you get better at the game. Because you're focusing on something that you can't even fully support yet. It'd be like, you know what it'd be like saying? It'd be like saying this. I'm going to go build a brand new house. And this house is going to weigh, I'm not going to use numbers here, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm going to build a house on a foundation that is very flimsy. And what's going to happen is 1 year down the line, it's going to snow, and then there's going to be a snowstorm, and my house is going to fall over. Like, and then it's like, well, how are we going to fix that? Okay, let's just focus on building a new house again. And then it fucking rains, and the house falls over again. And then it's really windy, and your house falls over again. Like, you have no foundation to build more advanced shit on. Work on the foundation first. And then suddenly, no matter what natural disaster hits you, you're fine. It can withstand it. If your opponent all-ins you, if your opponent tries to macro against you, if your opponent has different types of tech against you, you can take it. But don't try to do shit that's advanced over a flimsy fucking foundation, because it's never going to work. And now he sees voids. You just showed him voids. So if I look at production tab, I mean, people have brains, right? I guarantee he's going to make hydras now. And if he makes hydras, he only needs to make to beat 3 void rays, soon to be 6 void rays. 2 hydras for every 1 void ray will win, honestly. Realistically. 2 hydras will beat 1 void ray, especially if you have 0, 0, 0 and he has 2, 0, 2, 1. He's going to be 2. He's actually going to be 3-1 on lings and 2-1 on lurkers and hydras. But 2-1 hydras versus 0, 0, 0 voids, he's going to crush your voids with like 12 hydras or more. And this guy has plenty of money to make more than 12 hydras. So he sees voids. Watch his production. When this fight's... He's most likely going to take the fight. He won't macro anything. And then when the fight's over, because you might lose your entire ground army, but then your air army still exists, he'll make probably like 35 hydras. Now, he'll make 25. He'll make 25 hydras because he actually moved back before all of his lings died. That's how much supply you can afford. 25 hydras are about to pop up in that production. It might be corruptor, but it's probably going to be hydra. It's a viper. Oh, okay. And it's hydras. 24 hydras and a viper. Like he's getting fancy with the viper. He doesn't need to make a viper, but like doesn't matter. 24 hydras is enough to beat 6 void rays. 12 hydras is enough to beat 6 void rays with the upgrades that we're talking about right now. So he's overkilling. He like the second those hydras get over here, the void rays are dead and the game's over. And here's the big problem. Look at the economy. Even if these voids killed this entire Zerg army right now, Protoss is still dead because Protoss can't deal with that kind of an economy. And the Zerg player, just like the Protoss player in this game, neither one actually went for expansions. So you got inefficient mining, inefficient mining, inefficient mining, inefficient mining. This Zerg player should be on 8 bases right now. And realistically, the Protoss player should also, if the Protoss player still had bases active and didn't die, the Protoss player also should roughly be on 7 or 8 bases as well. If it was a normal game. Like that would mean that you're playing like efficient. And, you know, obviously problems happen and you got to try and fix them, but you got to also expand quickly right after you fix the problem. And if you can't do it, you're going to die obviously, and you're going to lose. And you have to try again the next game. There's no excuse that's like, well, if you're getting attacked, just don't expand. If you don't expand, you're going to lose the game, and the game's going to end. And if you attack someone like the Zerg is, and you're like straight up just being like, you know what, I'm going to all in now for the next 10 minutes of this game. I'm never going to expand again. These are the kind of players that if you just macro against them, you overwhelm them over time because this guy, his macro starts just dropping off because he stops fucking macroing. Look at all these queens. Max energy. Max energy. Max energy. Max energy. Look at these bases. Inefficient, inefficient, inefficient. Every base. We just looked at him a second ago. All inefficient. This dude is literally just not macroing anything anymore. He is neglecting his macro like crazy. So, like, this is the kind of player that will just... He'll, like, eventually bleed out over time and just die. So that's why I'm saying if, like, at 10:30, if the Protoss player in this game, which is the guy we're looking at, Mr. John here, impressive... If he would have had more of a assertive macro opening and would have actually, you know, controlled the map a bit better with timings that were more appropriate for like actual move outs, the contained game would never have existed and the Protoss would have always remaxed against the Zerg that could not because the Zerg would have bled his economy out like crazy. Like this, the only reason why that's so good is because the Zerg has been so efficient with lurkers. But if the Protoss just had more Immortals, more Archons, whatever, you could have kept resetting his lurkers, kept resetting his lurkers, kept resetting his lurkers. And if you're on 6, 7 bases and the Zerg is on 4, your gas is going to last longer than his, and it's eventually going to turn into mass Lings versus Archons. And that's going to be like, see how the trade looks? It's put that in reverse. Protoss would be the one with way more efficient trades over Zerg, because if you have equal supply Archon versus Zergling, like if you have 10 Archons versus like 80 Zerglings or something, like that's so good for Archons. Archons are just like did you ever watch the Legacy of Void cinematic? The opening of that? One Archon attack, just like 10 Lings just die. Obviously it was like a line, so it didn't really make a whole lot of sense, but it looked kind of cool. But it's still real. Archons annihilate Lings like crazy. It's ridiculous. Archons one-shot splash damage Lings. Like one Archon hit, 7 Lings just die. And now the game's over. You're dead. Like we said, the economy isn't there, and there's no way out of the situation. Because you can't... you'd have to be insane with micro to get out of the situation like you were. So just don't let yourself get into it the next time. And yeah, Void's never made sense here, because if he just makes Hydras, you die again. Because you don't have a better economy than him. Voids only make sense if you have a better economy to overwhelm them, and because Voids are kind of shitty. They're kind of shitty units. A more cost-efficient unit out of a Stargate would have been something like a Tempest or a Carrier. But even then, you don't have enough money to make enough of them to really get to a point where it's scary for Zerg. Like, you could have probably made like 3 Carriers. Or like 4 Tempests. Maybe 5. And you would have still died to 24 Hydras. Like, Carriers... Like, Stargate really only gets scary if you have enough money to remax on Stargate. Like, you're literally at like 100 supply of air. Then it's like, okay, if Zerg's still going Hydras, he's pretty dead at that point. But yeah, I hope this helps. I hope this makes sense. You just got to fix that macro, dude, like we talked about throughout the game, John. And yeah, like these situations wouldn't even happen if your macro is more assertive and better, and it just made more like timings were better. But I hope what we talked about makes sense. Again, you can always go back and rewatch it if you miss timings and stuff like that. If things that make sense, always I definitely encourage people in general to always watch it again, because that's why it's on YouTube. And for those of you watching it on Twitch, it will be on YouTube by like tomorrow. So go subscribe to the YouTube channel. You know what I'm saying? It's free, and you can watch videos just like this and many more, as many times as you like, to really nail these timings down and get your macro actually. Like, you know how everyone tells you you need to macro to get better at StarCraft? A lot of people just say macro. Well, games like this video right here, it tells you how to actually do that. And it makes sense. Like, you really do have to be able to macro, otherwise games turn into messes like this that make no sense. Like, this game shouldn't even have existed if macro was good for either one of these players. Now, if either one of these players was really fucking... Like, let's say both players were really solid at macro and the game still turned into something like this. That could happen. But you know what happens then? It's a whole different type of game, because at that point, if both players can actually macro perfectly and micro at the same time, micro changes everything. And that's now talking about like Masters Plus, maybe like more like GM level analysis, where now the disruptor thing I talked about makes more sense, where like you could go disruptors against lurker styles, and it's like now it's a game of not only balancing your macro, but also balancing Zerg needs to not lose their lurkers while simultaneously pushing with lurkers against disruptors, and Protoss needs to shove lurkers back with disruptors while trying to AoE them down and not overcommit to fights until lurkers are dead. Like, it's a balance of like a push and pull of lurker versus disruptor with macro. It's a totally different game. It's way more intense. It's harder, and players in Gold League cannot handle that at all. If a player in Gold League was trying to balance disruptors versus lurkers in either side, there would be zero fucking macro the whole time, guaranteed. So yeah, just getting your macro game down and making it become like second nature, like breathing to you, is what the goal is at this point. So again, I hope this helps. John, much love for doing analysis, dude. I appreciate you supporting the Patreon. And guys, if you liked it, go check out more videos. I have so many more just like this, and all ranges of skill, like low league to high upper leagues. I've even done sometimes like pro analysis stuff, because I used to be a pro myself, so I know how to look at that shit. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And until then, good luck in your games, and yeah, peace. Good luck, guys. Thank you. Gross.